Okay, so we are on tape, on record. This is the November regular scheduled meeting for the month of November for the Public Safety Committee meeting, the Anchorage Assembly. Paul Holman, I'm the chair of the Public Safety Committee, and I'm joined by the entirety of the committee today.
Bernie Hall.
Dick Trey.
Elby Gray Jackson.
All right. We should go fairly quick today. We normally allow a little extra time, and last meeting, if you remember, we were talking with the tow industry, reference their changes, an introduction to an ordinance that is still working its way through the body. And it has some information I'll share with the committee as you're leaving, so.
I know we got this one today.
Okay. And I might add for the record, Ms. Jamie Hines from the Assembly's Clerk's Office is staffing the Public Safety Committee meeting, and she's in attendance. And the legislative aides, Christy Cater Brown is here at the moment. If you haven't signed in, please do so we can have a way to contact you. And we're just gonna get started. I haven't seen the fire department representative, but hopefully they'll join us here momentarily. So Lieutenant Gillum filling in for Chief.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for the invite. I'm sorry, I was not briefed or have the information on the UCR, so I can't speak to those issues. I did notice on your agenda you had something about windshields. I don't know the specific question, but I might be able to answer any questions that you have about that.
Okay.
The little gentleman came to our last meeting. He was upset because there's a lot of cars that run around with cracks in the windows. And don't we enforce the state ordinance, state law, that requires people not to drive with cracked windows? He also worked for Windshield Replacement Company. So,
Yes, sir, we do it. There is a state law, and we also enforce that under Title IX, equipment for vehicles. So.
that was his main thing I get. Because he never said anything about tinting of windows,
No, that's a separate issue on that.
but his was just cracked windows.
Correct. Lieutenant Gillum, you oversee the traffic unit, correct?
I do, sir.
Okay. Do you, how many traffic unit officers are there for traffic law enforcement? I know all officers can make traffic stops, detectives.
We're down to 7 now. We lost half of the unit last year because of staffing. And so we have 7. The majority of them work the mid-shift hours and swing shift hours for the DUI enforcement. But on day shift, I think I have 3, including fatality investigators.
Ms. Great.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just for clarification, Lieutenant Gillum, so it is a state law that you can't drive around with cracked windshields?
Well, it can be cracked, but it should not be in the
Shouldn't obscure
field,
the-
obscure your vision.
Okay, and then it's a state law and it's in Title IX too, I think.
Well, we have a corresponding equipment violation. If something is broken on the vehicle, it's required to be fixed if it's unsafe.
Okay, so how do you, never mind. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So I'll follow up. I think I know what you're getting at. The gentleman who presented, he not only came to the Public Safety Committee meeting, but he has forwarded an email. I'm not sure if all the members got
He
it.
rode his bike to come to our meeting.
His comment was, and I'm not sure that it's accurate, but I don't want to speak out of turn, so I'll ask you, if you have got to research it, that's fine. But his comment was that he believed that it was up to a $2,000 fine and a criminal fee for a criminal offense for driving with a cracked windshield. And he was quoting a section of the municipal code where Title IX maximum penalties, because the municipality doesn't enforce felonies. So can you just briefly address what you might know?
Yeah, he's probably looking at, without specific information, but I think he's probably read the penalty phases of the title section, which includes, as you, from your prior experience, DUIs, racing, reckless driving. Those are misdemeanor criminal offenses. So there is a section in that penalty that will describe the maximum penalties for that. But for equipment violations, which a broken windshield would be, it's usually no points and it's a fix-it ticket.
Fix-it ticket.
Exactly.
That was one of the concerns. He thought that the municipality was missing out on an opportunity for revenue for traffic citations, $2,000 a pop. I told him I thought he was incorrect, but I would get back the information. I'm going to forward his information to you if you don't mind, and then
I'll be happy to
you can just
deal with it
address
directly.
with that'd be great. Is that?
That would be great, and if you can copy also.
I would be happy.
And then the second part to windshields, Lieutenant Gillum, is there's a lady, Julie Sidoris, and I'm not sure where it started, but she's saying, while listening to Hometown Alaska last week, and this was on October 13th, Chief, you mentioned that there is a proposal in front of the Assembly regarding automobile window tinting. Could you please tell me where this stands in the process? Thank you, and I apologize for emailing you personally, but it was easy to find. So Jennifer Johnson had forwarded to me saying she doesn't recall it, and did I know the status of it? I don't recall.
I don't recall it either.
being.
I remember a few months ago, we had a meeting and Chief Mew, Tenty was here, I think there was a young gentleman here that had moved up from Colorado.
Correct.
And I remember that meeting, and we were discussing, and the chief's position as well as mine is that we don't think window tinting is a safe reason, or there were some circumstances that he described for the passenger, or the front vehicle passenger and driver window and the front windshield. There were, tinting is available for what they call the eyebrow area of it. There was specific mention of perhaps, for people that had cancer, skin cancer, there was concerns. The chief mentioned that he too is actually suffering from some of those issues, and that there were better ways to deal with that instead of tinting windows.
You know, that thing's been bouncing around quite a bit, and I've been looking for it, and haven't seen anything, but I did see in our legislative packet addressing that, asking the state not to lower what the standards are now, because we're very happy with it, but that is the only thing that I've seen recently in regards to window tinting was in that legislative packet. Do you remember seeing that, Dick?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. But
I can't
that's
see
the
what
only
page
place
it's
I've
on,
seen it.
but it was in the back where we had state
Right.
statutes,
Priorities.
James Oz.
Priorities or something.
That would be one.
Well, I'll respond back to Ms. Johnson so she can contact her constituent, or maybe I'll contact her and copy Ms. Johnson. But I do remember the gentleman coming several months back, and he was from out of state, and he was a military person, he was fairly responsible professional. And he was asking if we would consider it, and I think he was fairly satisfied with the answer the chief gave at that time, as I believe the committee felt fairly comfortable with her.
Yeah, that was my takeaway from that.
Yeah.
And I think, Mr. Chairman, that his concern was because his windows tinted dark.
Yes.
Yeah.
And don't they give people who move in from out of town?
It's fix it,
Fix it ticket.
Yeah.
Normally what a company will sell you with a new car is a certain amount of tinting. It's the people that do aftermarket tinting that
Yes.
have a problem. You can drive along the old Seward Highway, there's a lot of businesses that say tinting windows.
Yes.
Those are the ones that take it darker than the factory sends you. I've ridden with these guys, you were an officer for years, and it's always interesting when you pull up to a car and you walk up, and you can't see who's in the car. Try to do that all day, every day, it's gotta be just a nightmare.
It can wear on you, yes.
And I can tell you, speaking just from this past weekend, there were some citizen observers calling in the ready program, and you asked them, did you see the driver? Of course, they were behind me. They said, did you see the driver? Could you identify the driver? And I said, no, it was dark, and the windows were too so tinted dark, I couldn't see. So that is another, it is an issue for, if you're trying to identify someone
If
involved
you
in.
wanted to, you could write legislation that it could not be darker than the factory sends out. And then you won't have the problem with it being so black. But that's, if you want to head down that road.
I think we'll just leave it as it is unless there's any recommendations from.
Yeah, my understanding is we're happy with the way it is now.
And I know you're not necessarily speaking for the chief, but since you're representing chief, is there anything about, from the department's perspective that you needed to cover that you thought we might need to know?
Well, one of the jobs I'm doing is also, I'm the acting captain for the Crime Suppression Division until next summer. Just an update on the academy, we have 24 recruits that are in the academy right now. 23 are APD, one is a fire investigator for arson. They're doing well, they're into their third week of training. We're very happy with the progress that they're doing. They just finished their DT phases, defensive tactics training phases of that. The academy that graduated earlier in October, they're in the FTO, and I got a status report last night, and they're doing well, so.
Have we been able to keep everybody?
The last academy, we've had one voluntarily to take a demotion into a non-sworn position. We are, I think in the last week, we've got notification of 2 resignations, and I think one is going to Montana and one is going to Colorado. And then these are individuals that are either under the Tier 4 PERS programs. One I think isn't, but I think for family reasons, he's moving his family to the lower 48. And I have been told that we should expect, maybe half a dozen or so people to retire by the end of the year.
This year?
Yes, this year or early next, yes.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Lieutenant Gillum, you're referring to the class that just graduated too early?
Oh, well, no, I'm sorry, maybe I misspoke. We've got, this November is the 20th anniversary of an academy. And usually whenever there's a 20th anniversary of an academy, you'll lose a few people for normal retirements. But we've also had, not only do we anticipate some of those leaving out of the normal academy range, but we've also got some that have been on the department, say 5, 6, 7, and I think a 9-year veteran is leaving.
Okay,
So, yeah.
thank you.
And, Mr.
I found out today that Clunas agreed to let us buy the land, put the tactical range out there, Birchwood, they've agreed to it. So,
So that's good news, because I know the chief and I had a discussion, I'm trying to remember if it was Monday or late last week about that. And I know he was having to look at some options because the original deal was gonna be too cost prohibitive.
I know the Kootenai Native Corporation relayed that information to George McCandless.
Okay.
So I think we're back on track with it, just to let you know.
Okay, that's news I hadn't heard, so good.
And as I recall, Tier 4 PERS, the non-defined benefit retirement system was in effect of 2004? 2004.
You're taxing my memory now, but I
I think we're coming up on a
was it
decade.
2004?
When was Cheryl Clemens on the body?
Whenever Murkowski was
Because it
governor.
was her baby. So,
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm losing a date on that, but I do know that we've got a number of people that,
yeah, you can put that in.
yeah, are leaving. And, while it's not been expressed to me, why they're leaving, there's a general consensus that that is a one factor in
Okay. Very good. Anything else?
it. No, sir, unless you
I
got.
appreciate the updates on the
Okay.
training in the academy.
Would you mind excusing me then?
No problem at all.
Thank you.
There's no excuse for you.
True.
Hope we'll get
He's
back.
out of here.
Health and
Thank
Human
you.
Services.
Well, thank you. You asked me to give you an update on the Ebola preparedness. So as of this date, we do not have any suspected or confirmed cases of Ebola in Alaska. So we, of course, hope to keep it that way. But in lieu of that, the last probably 6 to 7 weeks, we have participated and coordinated extensive preparation meetings with the state of Alaska. The state of Alaska, DHSS, is the lead regarding any response to Ebola preparedness. Probably several of you may have seen the press conference that we did with Governor Parnell and the epidemiologists, the physicians for the state. And so I want to just fill you in on some of the titles of what we're working on without giving you all the minutia. So what we are working on is the healthcare system preparedness, obviously. How will we deal with a suspected case if one surfaces? People have to take 3 to 4 different legs of a journey to get to Alaska from an Ebola-affected country. So there are many exit monitoring that is occurring, of course, coming out of the affected countries, the 4 primary countries, and then there are entrance monitoring functions that are occurring with all primary airports that receive folks coming from West Africa. So in the preparedness element, we have worked extensively with our own state office, as well as participating in weekly teleconferences, which are now moving to every other week teleconferences on the details of how to respond. One of the areas that's been most problematic for Ebola response is the donning and doffing of the personal protective equipment, the PPEs. So the CDC issued about a week ago the newest update on the proper PPE for people to wear that are in the healthcare field that may actually encounter an Ebola infected person. So we have been gathering the proper PPE for our staff over at the health department. The health department's role primarily would be to monitor people that are listed as perhaps contacts of someone. So the likelihood of us interacting with an infected person is extremely low. Of course, there's high lethality connected to this, so you want to be completely, as I call it, over-prepared. So low likelihood, high lethality. So we have worked on the personal protective equipment so that we have everything ordered that we should need. We also have been working with AWU to make sure that anyone that has questions about is the water treated, wastewater treated any differently if there is an Ebola case. And at this time, AWU has been very, very clear that all of the official guidance, they're following all the official guidance from CDC at this time. They'll continue to monitor, review, and make any changes that are needed to keep you informed. The other areas is, of course, protecting our first responders, which are folks that are EMTs working for the ambulance, as well as anyone that would have to enforce a quarantine. So we've been working with the state troopers as well as APD on who would actually implement that. And Chief Mew has been a very active participant in our meetings related to making sure people are protected. It's very hard to protect an officer with all of the equipment they currently wear. So they will have specific systems set up for individuals who may have to respond to that and help enforce a quarantine. Okay. We have press releases and all kinds of media preparation already ready in light of a case or a suspected case. We're ready with all the CDC and local muni approvals for potential press releases. We, of course, luckily have not had to issue those. We also have a protocol with the hospital should there be any need for shipping testing samples. We have flyers around the health department. These are the flyers that are produced by CDC, but we've produced them ourselves, which just asks if anyone visiting the health department has been in these affected countries within the last 21 days to please notify us. We haven't had anyone notify us if they have been. And those are the primary areas that we've been working on as far as Ebola preparedness. Do you have any questions?
Mr. Train?
My question relates to another issue, animal control. Can you tell me the last 5 years, the amount of animal control officers we've had for the last 5 years?
I do not
I
know
want to
that.
correlate that with the increase in the population, increase in animals that are out there, because I want to come forward with our budget, try and add 3 or 4 more enforcement officers.
Right, I know that there is an escalation clause in the animal control contract currently, and so if we would need more, I'm sure there is a need for more officers, but I can get back to you with that specific
I'd like to know
information.
what the amount of officers we've had in
Okay.
the last 5 years, for example.
Okay, for the last
Because I
5
think
years.
it's been static, and our
That's-
population's not been.
Right. Okay,
Ms. Craig?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just FYI, Melinda,
Mhm.
I have a call into the Ann Fedco too.
oh, okay, she will, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Last 5 years, okay, I can get back to you if she doesn't respond. Any question? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
well, just a comment. I had a friend that was out in Providence the other day in emergency, and apparently they've prepared an isolation, or they're making some kind of reps there, because she said all kind of this was going up, and they told her that's what they were doing, was preparing in case anything that came up with Ebola.
The hospitals have been actually conducting drills just to ensure that they can put on the equipment and then take the equipment off to make sure that they're safe. That's where some of these infections have occurred, is when the hospital staff have been removing the personal protective equipment. There's about 37 steps to removing it, and you have to do it properly or there's an opportunity for infection. So they are doing drills currently.
I saw something today on that where I guess the Presbyterian Hospital down in Texas has reached an out-of-court settlement with the family of the gentleman that was, they didn't diagnose him correctly with it. I guess it's gonna cost them millions by the time they settle that.
Mhm.
Well, I appreciate the update. There were a few constituents that I've contacted and was asking, are we prepared and do we know? And I was vaguely aware that there was some contact with, I guess, a teleconference,
Yes.
CDC, but I wasn't sure who was doing it. I know
Yes.
the municipal manager's office was was on board, I wasn't sure. if we had-
Right, we're coordinating it, and all of our local enforcement agencies participate in the teleconference.
And the only thing that I would add is, I've been over it, there are some exchange students and there are opportunities, I guess, from the university or from international companies where people may come or to or from. And I don't want to be one of those people that, you know, there's abundance of caution, and then I think there's a little bit more of a paranoia, but is there any tracking or monitoring of it? Because I can tell you that I was in it for a minor procedure yesterday at Providence, and they were asking me, have you traveled to Africa?
Right.
And so it's a protocol that they ask one of the questions, which of course I haven't, but I guess that's the same thing. We have university students, people with the track team. There was the one gentleman whose feet were really badly damaged from when he disappeared last year.
Right.
Chisoto, I guess.
Right, I
Yeah,
mean, he's
that's the
been
thing.
here for several years
Right,
now.
yeah, but I mean, do they go home for the Christmas break, you know, I mean, there's all sorts of things that, you know, that are going on.
No, that's a very good question. The companies such as seafood processing plants,
Yes.
of course, bring people from all over the world to work in these companies. We've had a briefing from them that they are doing extensive monitoring to ensure that no one comes into work at any of the seafood processing plants in Alaska or in the Pacific Northwest without all of the screening first. So they have taken this concern very seriously and are very proactive in it.
Okay.
Mhm.
So please keep us updated if there's anything changes. I know that doesn't.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gosh, this is a really good subject, because Accutan, where I used to work with them, they have the biggest seafood processing plant in North America, so.
Correct. They're very
They're doing-
proactive in all of their
Keep
monitoring.
trying,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, they're all the screening,
Great.
the monitoring, who they're hiring, where they're from, any contacts, they're completely on it. Mhm. I was very impressed with their preparation. Any other questions on that?
Good on the Anchorage Safety Patrol contract.
Okay, the Anchorage Safety Patrol contract is up and running. The month of September, we had Gold Belt out of Juneau. That's the company that has taken over the contract from Nana. They did a transition the entire month of September where they were on site interviewing staff. They hired, the majority of the staff have been hired from the previous contractor. So these are folks with some 10 and 12 years of experience working at ASP and at the Safety Center. So the transition occurred in September. They began in October. They have, as part of the transition, they've met with our team at DHHS, of course, extensively since we managed the contract. And they've also met with folks from APD and AFD during the month of September. There's been no disruption of service. There have been a slight change in the hours of the workday for folks there. They went from 5 8-hour workdays to 4 10-hour workdays without affecting the services, which has been apparently an improvement in morale. The new Gold Belt logos were placed on the Safety Patrol vehicles, so you should see that logo when you are driving around. The new staff uniforms have been purchased so that there's a clear transition between the two companies. And Safety Patrol staff uniforms include reflective material for added safety when they're out in the field. All the Safety Patrol staff have received additional training than what they had been receiving before, which is particular attention to CPR, first aid, and customer service. The safety renovations within the Safety Center have been completed, which was an increase in the partition, clear acrylic shield, so that there would be more protection against bodily fluids, as well as reinforcing the quiet room door, which had some structural problems. They reinforced that. So Gold Belt at this time is meeting all the terms and conditions of the contract and has been very proactive in working in the community to address the chronic inebriate problem.
I'm the only one of the, Mr. Hall?
Yeah, what was the difference in the contract amount?
It was-
I know it was more.
Yes, it's, they trimmed it. They trimmed, originally it was over $2 million. They trimmed by about $127,000. They reduced it, Gold Belt did. And then there was a $211,000 gap between Nana and Gold Belt, which the Muni has come forward and will be providing. So we will be able to, so there, I think the current contract is I want to say 1.975, but I can give you that exact amount.
So, 1.975, is that gonna get us through the entire year 2015 at the current,
Yes.
staffing, fan levels?
Yes, the 24-hour care, 24-hour pickup, and I'll get you the exact total.
So, could you, and I just wanna make sure, because we have to lose a little bit, what's their limit? How far south will they go, how far east, west will they go to pick up?
Well, that is a good question. I mean, I don't think we've changed the route, for the last few years, but it's primarily a downtown perimeter,
Right.
but, I'd have to get you actually the map that shows you
It'd be great.
what's
I know
the,
they drop off and pick up at, say, A&MC, Providence, ARH, last week,
Mhm.
and they've got
Mhm.
Midtown. It used to be there was a limit, but then that was all dependent on the amount of people in the van or how many
right,
vans they had running.
right, and what's the capacity, of course, at the the center, if that's reached capacity, you just can't bring in more people,
Right,
but I can get you the map.
that'd be great.
Mhm.
Anything else? Ms. Freeman, is there anything that you think we need to know about going on with HHS? It's not on the
What?
agenda.
No, I think that we're just, again, we have been immersed in Ebola preparation, making sure that we're ready should anything occur in Anchorage. And so that has been an opportunity to strengthen our partnerships that we already had in existence. And then making sure that we have, proper coverage for all these health and safety related issues. So I'll report to you if there are any problems with our current contractor, both for animal control or the safety center, but I think we have great working relationships.
Last night, it was a State of the City meeting, it was
Mhm.
held by the community councils. Anyway, there was a guy there that has an app that, he's coordinated both Uber and flu shots.
Oh, wow.
So you can go through his app, if you need a free flu shot, you can go on Uber, who's not charging for the ride, and he's got it designed to take you to free flu shots.
Wow, interesting.
He's calling it Flu Uber or something like that.
Okay, well, I didn't
No,
know
it
that.
was another guy. But I thought it was kind of interesting, amazing use of technology.
Yes,
And so I know that's it's a good segue, it wasn't on the agenda, but it is the flu season at the beginning, I
correct.
guess.
And we are very actively providing flu shots for people as well as routing people to other free sources of flu shots should they need those.
Okay, and I'll just echo what Mr. Train said about animal control. If we won't know how many we have to fund in the upcoming budget if we don't get the information, so we would.
Sure.
Go to the next step.
I'll get you those three things.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Mhm.
That was good.
Okay, Officer of Emergency Management, I'll give you what we're doing first, and then I'll address your earthquake question. We do have a new person being hired for the Community Outreach Public Affairs Officer. She should be on board 1 December. I don't know exactly which one he picked, but that's the day we'll be hiring. Let's see, we've been working with the FEMA on a couple items. FEMA has a movement control working group, and basically it's about the Port of Anchorage. It mostly has to deal with how we're going to control stuff coming in and going out of the port during a large-scale disaster. How do we tell which ships we want to come in, what goods we want to come in, stuff like that. So they're working closely with the Port of Anchorage and the Office of Emergency Management on that. So we have a COOP exercise coming up in December 3rd with FEMA, continuity of operations, and a little workshop with them. Next week, we have the Chugiak Electric is going to be doing a tabletop out at the EOC, working on the Eklutna Dam. If the scenario, if a Eklutna Dam had a failure, what do we do? Evacuating people and so forth. So we got that exercise going next week on the 18th. And then as far as the question about have there been an increase in the number of earthquakes? Well, that's one of those yes and no answers I can give you. The periods from 2010 to 2012, there was an increase of about 100 earthquakes more a year throughout the world. Whether or not that's a trend cannot be verified due to the fact that we have better sensors nowadays and stuff. And we don't know if it's just a cycle thing going on. So there is no confirmed, yes, we're getting more earthquakes, yes or no. We have gotten more in the past couple of years, but that we don't know if it's just a trend or if it's something more. Okay? And then on the other end, can't do anything about it. So
Be prepared. Be prepared.
you can only prepare, and that's it. So I can't warn you ahead of time. We still haven't had data availability, so it's just all about preparedness at this point.
One of the reasons it came up, somebody pointed me to that some fault line, and I may goof this up, Nevada or someplace where they said that it's like 100 times more, or 100 or 200, like almost every day, they have several. I don't know, I read it, and I'm not sure if it's valid or not, so it was one of the questions. I know,
Yeah.
all we do is prepare. I mean, we had a Good Friday, 64, and we've had a couple of
Yeah.
shakers on ADAC. I know that we've had a couple in town, or near town.
And in Fairbanks,
Yeah.
And they are finding better availability. We're finding more fault lines that we never knew about before. So, yeah, better scientists, better stuff doesn't necessarily make us happier. So, yeah. Ignorance is bliss, I guess. So.
I'm assuming we're okay with lava flow.
Yeah, I think so. Unless you own a house in Hawaii or anything. That's about it.
That's the southern tip, right, of the Big Island.
Yeah, that's on Big Island, yeah.
Do you have any place?
it's probably getting.
No, I don't, fortunately.
Yeah. More land every day.
We do have volcanic activity, just not necessarily.
It's gotta be something sitting there just watching it come at you.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. Especially if that was your house.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Anything? Switch, anything more?
That's all we have going on. Like I said, we'll know here shortly who we're going to extend the offer to take the public affairs, community outreach person. And with that, the person in December will, of course, set the agenda for the next year, whether or not we want to do brown bag lunches. And we're going to continue with emergency watch program and CERT in the new year. So those will be our big goals for the new year.
It's been-
Elsie, Paul, and myself took a tour through the school nutrition facility today.
Mhm.
You been there and looked at that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because that's an amazing source of food, should we have an emergency in
I've
town.
never seen that.
Yeah, one of the things, it was a little disappointing when they gave up the bottled water
I know
portion.
they justified that.
Yeah, it was justified, but it was a great source for us, yeah, but, you know,
They say they
cost.
don't make donuts there anymore, either.
Yeah, drug donuts and bottled water.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just want to make sure you guys
Yeah,
are
that's-
aware of their capabilities.
yeah, that's one of our-
if ever emergency.
Knock on wood places, so, yeah.
And it's really one of the things under the, I guess, auspice of your official duties. Apparently, they were very proud of the fact that they've got the cleanest kitchens for their safety inspection, so if you.
I will
your
pass
agency
that
does-
on.
If your agency does that. that's,
Yes, we do that.
So
Food
you might
sanitation.
get a chance to take a tour. It's a pretty fascinating
Yeah,
place.
I will definitely do that. I've been out in the field, of course, more in the last few months with my director position, and it's extremely interesting. I've been to animal control, I've been to the solid waste site that houses all of our emergency preparedness trailers. And we're in the course of the chat training right now, which is the response training. And we did an on-site training at Spenard Rec Center, where you set up to 80 cots for an emergency facility, an ACE, alternative care site. And then we'll also be working on pills to polar bears, which is the distribution of anti-anthrax materials, if needed. So we'll work with you on that. There's a lot going on, and I'm eager to continue to be out in the field.
Okay, so that's what we have on the agenda. Mr. Musser, I had noted that you're in. I want to make sure you get a chance to address this. Is there any issues that we should know about on the, did we ever get I guess the question to you is, did we ever get the extra inspector that we were looking, we had funded from earlier in the year? Or is that projected?
Thanks. We did get him. He was on board. He trained, and he regretfully resigned last week. There were some issues that developed there on the night shift, and, out at night, and it was just uncomfortable. So we're working with ER to revamp some of the criteria for being out there to work with it. We'll recruit here. Hopefully go out next week.
Mr. Trainer?
Eric, next month, would you post us again where we're at on that? So I want to make sure that position gets hired. If we need to help you at all, let us know. We're more than happy to be objectionable like ER, make sure they get their job done. I want that person to help you to be hired.
Yeah, me too. It was quite, it provided a very beneficial uptick, at the outset, and once we had him on board, so it was good. It's a little tougher crowd at night, and,
their skills.
It does, and actually, Lieutenant Gilman had left, but I communicated with them we just felt it would be beneficial to have those code enforcers have a little more of that. There's some interactive training that APD provides, some of the new officers, I think they'd be beneficial on just how to work with how to just back away and get away and, just do better, so.
Well, thanks, Eric. Would you add it to our agenda next month? Mr. Chairman, just want to make sure we follow up on it. Because I didn't know that he wasn't there.
I will, just as a suggestion, in the past, I can go in the Wayback Time machine. There were some former police officers in the state and some APD that actually filled in as the part-time transportation inspection. And they actually had a radio where they could communicate if they were going out on an inspection, and they would actually radio to dispatch and say they had a call sign like TI3, TI4, whatever. And they'd say they were gonna go out in front of 4th and D on a taxi inspection. And that way, after a certain amount of time, if they haven't heard from them, they would query them. They would send officers, sometimes they'd hear that, and then an officer would show up and help out. So that's something that, along with the training, that might be something that might be possible to do, certainly for their safety.
And we have, things, though we've not done it with radio, we've notified them when I leave myself when I'm out there, was monitoring the bar activity and what have you. We let the supervisors know, that we want time off and we're down on the street. And they are just exceptional, and not only exceptionally accommodating, to the folks, so.
And I look forward to input on, obviously, there's the Uber ordinance that are going through, there are some exceptions with that, so I know there's a lot in the taxi industry that are concerned, so, I know you're probably taking the brunt of it because you're getting all the calls and the contacts and such.
Tough issue.
Yes, sir. Okay, I notice we have media, but is there anyone, Mr. Millspaw, I know from the university area, is there anything in the Public Safety Committee from the university area that's?
No, we're doing good, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Well, did you guys talk about the crime stats that I thought?
No, unfortunately, the chief's not available. The deputy chief just got in last night, and Lieutenant Gillen wasn't prepared to be able to speak on it. So we'll
Okay.
have it for next month, and we'll schedule it in.
Okay, sounds good.
There were some areas of crime UCR, by the way, that seemed to have gone up. There were a few that went down, but most of them seemed like they're trending up. But
And it might even be winter next month.
that's true. That's true.
Well, if you take, if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
take into consideration all the alerts we get,
Nixle works really well. That's what's going on in this town.
And so to the colleagues here, we do have, before we conclude, we do have the tow ordinance that is before us. And Ms. Hines actually stated that if you can take a look at this, you want, we'll have it available for the next public hearing. But basically, that is what's on file, is that right?
Yeah, those are the 10 operators that currently provide CI tows and the rates that are advertised in their files, which we keep on record at this point.
So you can see that the average that we have set, no more than, is in the ballpark. And even if when you take the outliers, that high and
Right,
low,
not really high.
it's still really close. So when you hear the complaints that 225 isn't enough, probably the ones that are gonna complain the most are the ones whose rates were way up there.
Have you guys made your escalation yet for the tour?
It's in progress.
It's in progress right now. We'll have it in front of us by the 18th.
Okay.
There was that question of whether or not.
There's only a couple of areas I'm looking at right now. One is we're requiring them to be open 6 days a week. They all came in and said, we only want to be open 5 days a week. I've got no problem reducing it to 5 days, but I don't want the tow charge to increase for having your vehicle towed if you can't pick up your vehicle.
Yeah.
For example, they tow it on Friday and then open Saturday and Sunday, and the rate's not gonna go up for the Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah. Are you
So-
keeping the 6 to 6 or are you gonna do the?
We're working on that. We're working on the time.
Sure.
We've listened to the industry, we've listened to the people that have been towed. And we're trying to figure out what reality is, because they've got two completely different views between the towers and the towees.
Yeah,
It's like-
that's for sure. And one last thing, it sounds like you're not looking to change 225, but do you think you might make exceptions for RVs?
Sure.
Ultra large?
I think we
That's
could
what
make
I'm looking at.
exceptions for
The larger
uh,
trucks.
Yeah.
Girdwood,
and
Yeah.
I
distances.
think for some of the other areas, I think we've gotta take a look at the fuel charge to see, wanna make sure it's reasonable.
Yeah, okay.
We can put that in there.
Okay, well, and, nothing else, time now is 12:44 PM, we'll be going, we'll end this, meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.